Rebecca, we love talking about questions. What is consciousness, the mind-body problem, cosmology, why is there anything at all? And lots of my friends have very strong beliefs. And in order to discern them, I analyze it. But then sometimes I just step back and say, I'm always focusing on the subject, consciousness, cosmology. But what about the word belief? When I believe something, is it helpful in philosophy to understand what that means before you understand the object of your focus?
Yes, and I think, belief, of the view, that something is this way, that it comes in various varieties, and that we can grade them in terms of how central to our point of view they are. And for me, one of the most interesting questions, and I ask it of people very often, is what is your sort of core belief? That meaning, and I use the terminology of Imre Lakatos, the philosopher of science, philosopher of mathematics, whose views I respect tremendously, to try to distinguish between, core beliefs and other beliefs. What are the beliefs in the face of recalcitrant experience, so anomalous experience? You have to do some revision of your web of belief. What is the belief that you will be the last to go, yet don't want to let it go, right? You'll make any other revisions rather than that one. And I think that's a very, very interesting question of people. I've asked it of many thinkers, what is that belief? And it's interesting to go through the history of philosophy.
That's like belief with a capital B.
Yeah, or just that core,
What are some of the answers you get when you
talk
to them?
I'm not going to name names, but one is, I will, because Richard Dawkins said it to me at a public conversation on stage, so I feel fine to quote it. And he said, the belief in objectivity, the belief that there really is, an objective world out there. That is the last thing that he would ever let go. I think, but even to look in the history of philosophy and to ask of various, philosophers. I mean, for Spinoza, it is that the world is intelligible, that there are no unanswered questions. There's a reason. Doesn't mean that we can answer them. In fact, he has a kind of incompleteness theorem. We are finite. The explanation requires infinity. We won't get there, but it is there. Kant, it's free will. He'll make any revision to his system to keep that core belief of free will. And I think that is very, very interesting, that we vary in this way, and that it comes to the fore in philosophy. Philosophy, because we're asking the kind of questions that are underdetermined by the evidence. We have maybe all the facts we're going to get, unlike science, where we're always trying to get more facts. Maybe when we're asking about the hard problem of consciousness, or about the nature of reality, or about what is mathematics, what are we doing when we're doing mathematics, we basically have all the facts we're going to get. We're not going to get anything more. That's why they're non-empirical questions. So these intuitions that we have are coming from someplace deep, and the way we simply organize all of our information. And it has a lot to do with our own personal, individually variable set skills, habits of mind, what we're good at, what we're not. Are you good in math? Are you not? Are you good in imagination? Are you not? And I've actually separated out 6 different responses to these philosophical or questions. And I use the acronym NATURE. Spells nature, right? So there are the naturalizers. And they are, coherence means everything. Science means everything to them. This is the ultimate skills that they're bringing to these questions. They are the aestheticizers. And in the literary world, in the artistic world, I run into a lot of aestheticizers. It is, if a view strikes them as beautiful, they believe it, right? If it has poetic suggestions, they believe it. It's a totally different kind of generation of belief. There are the theologizers.
On the aestheticists,
Yeah.
sometimes you have scientists that way who they'll say, even if the experiment shows my theory to be wrong, the experiment is wrong because my theory is so beautiful.
And sometimes
rarely, but sometimes it's right.
And sometimes that's right. Yes. So yes, there's a lot of overlapping of these. I mean, this is a crude
This is a personality
division,
thing, but
yes.
scientists can be in the other categories
Exactly,
as well.
exactly
Okay,
right.
so
They're the theologizers,
Yeah.
right? Who, problem of consciousness, everything, mathematics,
God.
everything.
Right.
It goes back to God. That's the ultimate mystery. All these mysteries can be absorbed into the great mystery of God.
Yeah.
There are the
God is the terminus of all explanations.
and that is a response to all of these questions.
Sure.
There are the unsolvers, those who what they always try to do when they're face philosophical issues like problems of consciousness, like mathematics, is to show that none of the proffered solutions solve the problem, make it disappear. McGinn does that to a certain extent in problems of philosophy. And by the way, this way of looking at the psychology, this is the psychology of philosophy, belief, not philosophy itself, the psychology of philosophy. There are the reifiers for every philosophical problem. Let's just reify a new category. We got the mind-body problem. Okay, there are minds. We got, why is there something rather than nothing? We got God. So they reify, they proliferate things, ontological categories. And then there are the epistemologizers, and they tend to relativize it to
the limits of knowing.
The limits of knowing, the contingencies of our particular cognitive capacities. There's nothing mysterious, and that's really McGinn, actually, in the problems of philosophy. There's nothing inherently mysterious about these problems. It's relative to the particular capacities that we have evolved, that we are the products of blind processes of evolution. It's amazing we know anything at all.
So is Rebecca an N, an A, a T, a U, or R, or an E?
I tend to be an E. I do tend to be an E.
I would be, I guess, an N in terms of naturalism, with a strong piece of U and making uncertainty, but occasionally a little bit of a T might flow in there when I'm a little bit.
Drunk?
I was going to say mentally lazy or something, but the tea will come in there every once in a while.
Here's the thing that I think is very, very interesting, and that I try to develop in myself, to try to imagine what it's like to be an N, an A, a T, a U, an R, and an E. I think that is a kind of flexibility of mind that can actually be even helpful in understanding the problems.
I think actually there's value in all of them.
I do too. Enough value that we should exercise our capacities to understand others, so that we could, see what it was like to have these different orientations.